They'll be waiting for you in the back. Sir, go right ahead. Question for Dinesh.
Mr. Dinesh, earlier you create a straw man fallacy that right and wrong needs to be an external idea, that humans can't possess this idea. Now, I would think, and I'd be curious how you would feel, that this alleviates the Christian from personal moral responsibility here on earth right now. That if divine, divine judgment would alleviate responsibility here and now against other men.
Alas, the way you stated it seems like a non sequitur. Maybe I'm missing the force of your question. Obviously, our responsibilities are on earth. The point is simply that the bad stuff that we get away with will ultimately have to answer for. Why is that an abdication of our responsibility on earth? It means that if you do bad stuff in private, you're never spotted, you're never seen, that ultimately, in some sense, you're going to have... It is the ultimate statement of moral responsibility, because if you remove the idea of external accountability, then morality ultimately becomes entirely internal, entirely a human invention. You know, in Hamlet, you get the phrase, "To thine own self be true." And for many of us, that is one way we try to access moral truths, but we want to think about it. I mean, is this advice you want to give Charles Manson? To thine own self be true? Is this something you'd want to say to Hitler? Follow your convictions, just do it? No. So this inner morality must be ultimately accountable to some external standard.
Comment, Dr. Singer?
I'm not totally sure that I understand where the question's coming from. I mean, I do think it just happens to be the case that we are here on earth. We have to take responsibility for what we do. I don't see a plausible alternative. That, of course, doesn't mean that you just say, go with whatever you feel like, because, as I've been saying on a few occasions, we do have the possibility of looking at the world in terms of looking at what we can do, putting ourselves in the position of others, trying to work out what's best for everyone when we do that, and that's the kind of accountability that I think we need to hold ourselves to in this world.
2 more questions. Some of you were bad at math and you're in line, and there's just no way we can get to you until 3 in the morning. Sir, a question for Peter Singer.
Dr. Singer, Sousa offered you the Kalam cosmological argument in his opening statement, and you declined that. You said that the universe is eternal. If the universe is eternal, don't you have to deny the second law of thermodynamics?
No, I don't think that believing the universe is eternal means we have to deny the second law of thermodynamics, although it's possible, of course, that the second law of thermodynamics applies post-Big Bang only, and that there were other laws governing the universe that existed before the Big Bang. We simply don't know that. But we don't know what energy, in what way energy may change. There may be other laws that relate to that. So, I'm not a physicist. All I can tell you is that having discussed with physicists the possibility of an eternal universe, they certainly acknowledge that as a possibility.
The idea of the eternal universe was once the conventional wisdom of modern physics. In fact, it has a very ancient heritage. Aristotle believed, for example, the universe probably was eternal. But there have been important developments in the 20th century that have refuted and undermined this idea. Now look, 100 years from now we might know differently, but all debates have to be conducted with the state of knowledge as it exists today. I'm simply stating that he's misstating the mainstream of modern physics, which is that the universe is no longer held to be eternal, but is believed to have had a beginning. That is the whole concept behind the Big Bang. Now, some scientists who don't like this, many of them have openly said, and Stephen Hawking mentions this too, that they shirk from the supernatural implications of this possibility, are working very hard to disprove it and show that perhaps our universe was tunneled or wormholed from other existing universes. But these scientists confess that they have, in a sense, made up these other universes. These other universes have no empirical confirmation whatsoever. Stephen Hawking says there's no evidence for this, and there probably never will be. So all I'm saying is it takes as much, if not more, faith to believe in all these fictive, imaginary universes as it does to believe in one creative God.
One last question. We started with Dinesh. We'll end with Dinesh simply because it's his birthday, but let me give away a prize. One more seat in our lecture series coming up. That's for Ken Mason of La Mirada. Your prizes will be on the table in the back. Sir, the last question.
Dinesh, my question has to do with animal suffering in light of a benevolent God, and I was curious, as you never really answered Singer's question. Animals that die cruel deaths because of humans or because of natural disasters, they never get repaid for that because there's no salvation within the Christian framework for animals. And they certainly don't get repaid for it on earth. So why would God design animals with nervous systems and the ability to feel pain when they would not be repaid for it? It's just gratuitous suffering, and I see it as meaningless.
Happy birthday.
Well, your question in its complexity inspires in me the thought that it would have been nice, Craig, if you had cut off the questions before he got started. But anyway, look, in some senses, I think these questions take on for me a little bit of an air of unreality, and here's why. God has created the universe as he did. It is a universe, if you will, that operates according to physical laws. It is a universe that operates according to what we often call the laws of nature. Now, the laws of nature are, certainly from our point of view, very harsh. It is a nature that is seemingly indifferent to suffering. We have catastrophes, earthquakes, rivers dry up, and so on. The question that we are trying to get at here, and I want to just emphasize how peculiar a question it is could God have created a universe with other sets of laws? Or could God have created a universe with no laws at all? In fact, the Muslim thinker Al-Ghazali says the universe doesn't have laws. Everything happens because Allah jumps in and wills it at every given moment. This is not a belief that has been mainstream in Western civilization, but conceivably the universe could be that way. Every time, for example, a kangaroo is hungry, an invisible being shows up with a visible hose and squirts the kangaroo with water. God didn't apparently create that kind of universe. Now, does this prove that God didn't exist? No. It makes us, for example, wonder, look, we are thrown into life, and many of our most fundamental questions are very difficult to answer, either by atheism or by theism. Why are we here? How did we get here? Where are we going? These are, if you will, questions of a cosmic nature, and to attempt to force me to answer them, otherwise, ergo, God does not exist, is foolishness. We are both, Peter and I, fumbling in the dark with what we do know, trying to make best sense of the world as it is. Suffering, in some sense, is inexplicable both for the theist and for the atheist. On the other hand, at least the theist has an answer to the problem of suffering, which is to say that our terrestrial life is short. Even if we could escape the suffering, we will still die. And that ultimately is the big end point we all face. So the question is there something beyond that? I think that if we look at the totality of our experience, the moral voice within us, the design of the universe out there, not just that we live on a lucky planet, we live in a lucky universe in which it is extremely odd that there is something instead of nothing, and in which there are human beings who can actually apprehend that universe.
Peter Singer response.
Yes. You said that neither the atheist nor the theist can explain suffering. The existence of suffering is not a problem for the atheist. It's just an unfortunate fact about the world. Maybe it's part of evolution, that evolution that beings evolved with capacities to feel pain because that helped them survive and reproduce. They could sense dangerous situations and move away from them. But, unfortunately, that means that they suffer a lot unnecessarily in all sorts of cases where they slowly die. Evolution doesn't care about that because evolution is not a consciously directed process. And that's essentially why evil is a problem for the theist, but not for the atheist.